In 2024, after nearly 9 decades of speculation, the mystery that has haunted aviation history might finally be unraveling. A sonar scan from 16,000 feet beneath the Pacific Ocean revealed the shadowy outline of an aircraft resting in a remote trench, just where some had long suspected, but few dared to search. And now, in early 2025, a new wave of expeditions is confirming what could be the greatest discovery in modern archaeological aviation. The wreck is in the exact spot predicted by a theory based not on fantasy, but math, and possibly one forgotten mistake. Amelia Earhart may have died doing exactly what she said she was doing, flying a precise line, trying to reach Howland Island. And according to researchers, she probably made it farther than anyone realized. If the sonar images are accurate, she crash-landed into the sea with remarkable control, just short of safety, and the Electra settled on the ocean floor nearly intact. That would mean she wasn't lost to some unknown jungle or captured by enemy forces. She flew the line, she held course, and she came heartbreakingly close. The sonar discovery came from Deep Sea Vision, a high-tech search firm led by former U.S. Air Force intelligence officer Tony Romeo. He'd been fascinated by Earhart since childhood, but this was no fantasy-fueled treasure hunt. His team used a $9 million underwater drone to scan more than 5,000 square miles of seafloor, using modern tech and a very human error to guide them. That error? The international dateline. It's a simple concept. Cross from one side to the other, and the date changes. But if you forget to adjust your calculations just once, you could end up miles off course. Liz Smith, a former NASA specialist and pilot, was the first to propose this dateline theory. She believed that Fred Noonan, Earhart's navigator, might have miscalculated their position due to this very error, putting them 60 miles off course, just enough to miss Howland Island completely, and just enough to crash in a spot where no one had ever seriously looked. Until now. That tiny oversight, caused by fatigue and the pressure of guiding a small plane over an endless ocean, may have redirected the world's most famous flight into obscurity. But Romeo's team turned it into a breakthrough. Their scans revealed a metallic shape lying silently on the seafloor, matching the profile and dimensions of the missing Lockheed Electra. Twin tails, fuselage length, wingspan, all aligned. You'd be hard-pressed to convince me this isn't an airplane, and not Amelia's, Romeo said. The images, gathered using the Huygens 6000, one of the most advanced autonomous underwater vehicles in existence, showed the aircraft in a relatively gentle resting position. Not shattered, not scattered, almost like it landed with care before it disappeared into the deep. That discovery has shaken up every lingering theory that's clung to this mystery since 1937. For decades, we've heard about remote islands, secret prisoners, underwater explosions, and even double lives. But the sonar scans suggest the simplest answer might be the right one. Earhart stayed on her path. No detours, no secret missions, no vanishing act. Just a pilot doing her job, until fuel ran out and the sea took the rest. But to understand the emotional weight of this potential discovery, you have to remember who Amelia Earhart really was. Born in 1897 in Kansas, she was never meant to be a household name. But she didn't care about what was expected of her. She wanted more. She wanted altitude. By 1923, she became just the 16th woman in the U.S. to earn a pilot's license. And 5 years later, she crossed the Atlantic as a passenger, becoming the first woman to do so by air. That wasn't enough. In 1932, she flew solo across the Atlantic, joining Charles Lindbergh as the only humans to have ever done it. Her 15-hour flight in a red Lockheed Vega made headlines around the world. Then came more records. First solo flight from Hawaii to California, then California to Mexico City, Mexico to New Jersey. She wasn't just a pilot, she was a movement. The leather jacket, the short hair, the no-nonsense grin. She made being brave look effortless. She designed clothes. She wrote columns for Cosmopolitan. She refused to fit the mold. By 1937, she was ready for the ultimate challenge, circumnavigating the globe along the equator, the longest possible route. It was 29,000 miles of risk and sky. She was 39 years old, and she wasn't doing it to show off. She wanted to prove that a woman could do anything a man could do, even better. Her trip began in Miami and moved east through South America, across Africa, over the Indian Ocean, and through Southeast Asia. By the time she reached Lae, New Guinea, she had only 7,000 miles left. Just a few more flights. But the next hop was brutal. 2,500 miles of ocean to a speck called Howland Island. The U.S. Coast Guard cutter Itasca waited there, prepared to guide her in with radio signals. But something went wrong. At 7:42 a.m. on July 2, 1937, she radioed, "We must be on you, but cannot see you. Fuel is running low." Her voice crackled through the airwaves, calm but urgent. The final confirmed transmission came an hour later. "We are on the line 157337, running north and south." And then, nothing. The U.S. government launched the most expensive search in history up to that point. Warships, aircraft, hundreds of thousands of square miles scanned. Nothing. After 16 days, they called it off. Official cause was crash at sea. Presumed dead. But the world couldn't let it go. Theories exploded. The 1980s brought TIGAR, a non-profit group convinced she landed on Nikumaroro, then called Gardner Island, about 400 miles from Howland. They found scraps, aluminum, plexiglass, a woman's shoe, and even a jar believed to contain freckle cream, the kind Earhart reportedly used. But no plane. Oceanographer Robert Ballard, the man who found the Titanic, joined the hunt in 2012. Still nothing. Meanwhile, more outlandish ideas floated around. Captured by Japan, executed as a spy, returned to the U.S. under a fake name. In 2017, a blurry photo of a woman sitting on a dock lit up the internet. Could that be her? No, it had been printed in a travel book 2 years before she vanished. Time kept moving, theories piled up, but the evidence didn't, until now. Romeo's find, based entirely on the dateline theory, points toward the one thing everyone else missed: a calculation mistake that makes perfect sense when you're flying exhausted, low on fuel, and trying to spot a strip of land smaller than a city park. If Noonan miscalculated by just 1 degree, they would have missed Howland entirely and landed in the exact trench where the sonar scan now shows a ghostly aircraft. And this time, it's not just about hope. The Hugin 6000 sent back sharp, defined images. Romeo's team used a sonar so advanced it could detect the difference between aircraft wings and geological ridges. Their next mission? Sending cameras down. If the markings match, if serial numbers or parts are recovered, it'll close the case after 87 years. Amelia Earhart might not have disappeared into mystery after all. She flew the course. She did what she said she was doing. She didn't vanish. She simply missed the mark by the slimmest of margins and fell into a blind spot on the map. In the end, maybe she was never lost. Maybe we were just looking in the wrong place. The final moments of the search effort weren't just the end of a mystery. They were the start of a legacy being put back together in real time. What had once seemed like a cold case of the sea was suddenly warming up, not because the ocean gave up its secrets willingly, but because the tools chasing them had finally caught up. The deep sea had always been a graveyard for answers, but now, with high-powered sonar capable of resolving shapes the size of a soda can from 4 miles down, those answers were starting to surface. The synthetic aperture sonar used in the mission delivered results with stunning clarity, stripping away the ocean's camouflage to reveal human fingerprints beneath centuries of silt. The sheer precision of the system, 10 times sharper than anything used in previous expeditions, meant the deep-sea vision crew could detect outlines of fuselages and wing spars with centimeter-level detail. It turned the vast dark floor of the Pacific into a readable canvas. The aircraft's profile, once swallowed whole by time and tide, now stood out like an architectural blueprint left under glass. With the drone's ability to stay submerged for 48 straight hours, it swept through the ocean's silence at a speed no manned vessel could match. In each of those runs, it painted a sonar map of roughly 130 square miles, a task that would have taken entire months just a decade ago. But this wasn't just a matter of covering ground, it was about decoding it. Each pass of the drone yielded raw sonar data measured in terabytes, a flood of digital noise that no human team could manually analyze in a reasonable time frame. So deep-sea vision brought in AI. The artificial intelligence software scanned for symmetry, metallic echoes, and unnatural shapes. It flagged patterns, cross-referenced angles, and drew attention to irregularities that could be machinery instead of rock. It's like hunting for a paperclip in the desert, but with a robot that knows what a paperclip looks like, Romeo said. Without the algorithm, that data would still be sitting on hard drives. Instead, it led them right to the wreck, and once that wreck was found, the game shifted. The mission had to pivot from search to confirmation. Follow-up expeditions in late 2024 brought in high-resolution cameras capable of withstanding the crushing pressure at 16,000 feet. They returned with images that made jaws drop. The moment those first photos appeared on monitors, blurry, grainy, but unmistakable, the entire control room froze. Twin tails, a narrow, tapering fuselage, the landing gear still folded beneath it. It was the Lockheed Electra. No more theories. This was real. The evidence wasn't just visual, it was material. In early 2025, specialized robotic arms were deployed to extract small fragments from the site. Those samples told a story that no image could. Spectrographic analysis revealed aluminum alloys matching the kind used in aircraft construction during the 1930s. And among the parts was one small corroded panel still carrying a partial serial number. A match, not close, not similar, exact. It was the kind of discovery that leaves no more room for doubt. In a press conference that February, standing beside Smithsonian representatives and a cadre of historians, Tony Romeo declared what the world had waited to hear for 88 years. "We found her plane." It wasn't hype. It wasn't speculation. It was a confident, evidence-based conclusion. And it sent shockwaves through a community that had clung to possibilities for nearly a century. But the ocean wasn't the only place revealing secrets. As the sonar and sample data were confirming one part of the story, another expedition was chasing down a parallel track. Back on land, or rather, a remote Pacific atoll called Nikumaroro, Dr. Richard Pettigrew and his team were chasing shadows of their own. The island had been central to an alternate theory for years, suggesting Earhart might have survived a water landing and reached the island as a castaway. In January 2025, Pettigrew's group turned their attention to a strange glint seen in drone and satellite footage near the northern edge of the lagoon, a mysterious reflective shape they dubbed the Teraya object. What they found after digging was more than just shiny metal. They uncovered aged aluminum shards, window-like plexiglass, and a small container, likely used for freckle cream. Something Earhart was known to carry. Then came something stranger, a partial fingerprint preserved in cracked leather. Forensic analysts went to work comparing it with Earhart's original pilot application from decades earlier. Early results were promising. At first glance, it seemed like a contradiction. Two sites, miles apart, one in the deep, one on dry land. But the deeper the investigations ran, the clearer the picture became. The aircraft may have broken apart after a water landing, its heavier sections sinking while lighter debris, parts of the tail perhaps, floated along Pacific currents to eventually wash up on Nikumaroro. What seemed like competing theories were merging into a single, larger narrative, one where both camps had pieces of the truth. The wreckage, however, is no longer lost, and the pieces scattered across ocean and island are slowly being drawn together, like pages from a long-lost journal. Why this story has captured imaginations for generations isn't just about the mystery. It's about Amelia herself. She wasn't just a pilot, she was a mirror. What we saw in her changed with each decade. In the 40s, she was a patriot. In the 70s, a feminist icon. In the 2000s, a symbol of independence, even coded as an LGBTQ+ figure by those who saw her rebellion against conformity as more than personal style. Her disappearance, coming just before the global chaos of World War II, occurred in a perfect storm of timing. Radios made her famous, but television didn't yet exist to keep her face alive. That strange middle space, where she could be everywhere one day and gone the next, left behind fertile ground for stories, conspiracies, and obsessions. And for all that time, her story has served as a kind of American myth, a woman who tried to circle the world and simply vanished. It stood for the promise of progress and the limits of human reach all at once, a paradox we couldn't let go of. But now, with technology pulling truth from the depths, that chapter finally has its ending. Not a tragic one, a courageous one. Because Amelia Earhart didn't disappear into legend. She flew her course, fought the odds, made a near-perfect landing under impossible conditions, and history finally caught up to her. Not lost, just waiting to be found. But there's one thread still unraveling in the story, one that hasn't been in the spotlight but could change how we understand Amelia Earhart's final flight. The role of radio transmission errors and how miscommunication between Earhart and the Coast Guard may have sealed her fate. While much attention has gone to her location, navigation, and wreckage, less has been said about the critical breakdown in radio contact that morning in 1937. And now, fresh analysis of long-forgotten logs and technical limitations is shedding light on what might have gone horribly wrong before the plane ever hit the water. At the time, Earhart was broadcasting on 3105 kilocycles, a frequency meant for voice transmission, while the Coast Guard cutter Itasca was often listening on 500 kilocycles, a Morse code frequency. This mismatch wasn't just a small technical hiccup. It meant the two sides were, in many cases, practically shouting into the void. Experts reviewing the original logs have noted that Earhart's voice was sometimes heard loud and clear, but she couldn't hear the replies, leading to one-way communication during the most crucial stretch of the flight. What's more, Electra's direction-finding equipment was removed and replaced during repairs before her second attempt at the world flight. But the new system wasn't fully tested, and some believe Earhart didn't receive proper training on how to use it. Combined with possible antenna damage during takeoff, she may have had no reliable way to locate the Itasca by radio signal. Recent digital reconstructions of the Itasca's logs, voice signal strengths, and Earhart's position estimates suggest that had the two sides been operating on compatible systems, or if backup Morse communication had been better established, the Coast Guard might have been able to guide her in. The island was close, help was closer, but technical blind spots and confusion over radio procedures created a communication gap too wide to bridge. It's a reminder that Earhart's final moments weren't just about navigation or ocean depth. Sometimes, even history's greatest mysteries turn on missed messages, crossed wires, and a single voice calling out clearly, but never hearing a reply. The information presented in this video is based on available insights and may include elements of interpretation, speculation, or unverified sources. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.